Targeted individuals. You're perhaps wondering how large pools of people are used to evade accountability when you're documenting the targeting. Well, it's done through distributed harassment, also known as mobbing. Individuals are targeted by many different people, often strangers, who may not even know the full scope of these operations. Each person's actions seem minor or a coincidence, but collectively it creates a pattern of psychological pressure. This activity based on mobbing is known as Zerzutzen. When you're a targeted individual, they utilize Stasi tactics. Contractors, security firms, environmental groups, regional councils, councils of government, hordes of civic groups, Masonic groups, select partners are sometimes utilized. So these groups which are doing this typically have mutual aid agreements which allow them to act in an unprofessional manner across jurisdictions, across your state. These agreements often shield them from prosecution. So once they contact the police and request mutual aid prior to harassing you, they are automatically under immunity, especially if they're working under federal or emergency mandates. It doesn't matter if you're harassed for 6 years in Texas, 5 years in Albuquerque, New Mexico, 8 years in Phoenix, Arizona, 8 years in Orlando. This can occur every single day for some targets. The use of civilians or community partners is commonly utilized in this activity based on discretionary actions or covert action. Some programs recruit volunteers, veterans, or neighborhood watch group members to participate in surveillance or this so-called community policing. So these individuals are typically told that they're helping to improve public safety, not realizing that they're a part of a coordinated harassment campaign. So what they may do is just go to neighbors in proximity to where you live, typically at the front entrance of where you live at, nearby where you live, and they may reach out to local veteran groups. And if there's any members on your street or close by, they will simply call them when you're about to pass by because they're tracking your phone. At times, sometimes they may communicate with neighbors which have cameras and say, if you see this guy, alert us, tell other neighbors to keep an eye on this guy to make their presence known. So a lot of times this has nothing at all to do with police, but a contractor that's doing black ops. So this creates plausible deniability. No single person is held responsible, and the target appears to police to be paranoid if they report it. And in some cases, when the police chief knows about it, they say automatically, oh, it's a civil matter, we can't get involved. So they're rotating personnel and vehicles at times to target people. Harassers may rotate between different cars frequently, using sports cars, regular just rundown cars, outfits. They may change outfits or utilize tactics to avoid detection. This makes it hard to establish a pattern or to have the ability to identify repeat offenders. Surveillance may include severe systematic manipulation, vehicle clustering, or proximity tactics. All these tactics are done in a very subtle manner to psychologically abuse you. You could just be walking down the road with your 80-year-old grandmother and they may just start honking horns. And when you look at these cars, you may see a Virginia tag or cars with no tags. They may park outside your residence on your grass and be parked there with one headlight and then drive off and leave. And then 3 days later it happens again and it's a different car. Then it happens the next week and it's a different car. So that way there's no arrest. And then once you get home, they just take off. So these repeat offenders, fellow TIs, essentially violate your rights and they don't get prosecuted. no single perpetrator is typically utilized, and they have large pools of people. Some of these perpetrators have $1 to $3 million insurance policies. Some of the perps that are utilized are ex-Army. They have training in psychological warfare, cyber operations. Some of these guys are in the tech field. You have some perps which are suicidal. They left the military, they lost their wife, they're suffering from extreme mental illness. Some of these people are drug users in rehabilitation, and they utilize them for community policing. Some of the groups that are in charge of these rehabilitation centers are getting government funds to run these facilities, and they have training in psychological operations. They're ex-U.S. Army in some cases, and they'll use them for so-called community policing. So, due to civil classifications, authorities dismiss these cases as non-criminal due to contractor immunity or mutual aid laws. Federal or private actors are shielded from liability. Targets are often discredited or institutionalized in the same manner excuse me, the Stasi destroyed lives and discredited citizens. You may notice these entities have no social media profiles. They have empty offices or shell fronts to prevent detection. Mutual aid agreements play a critical role in this activity since it allows agencies and contractors to operate across jurisdictions without any direct accountability. Now, due to all the issues going on with Russia and with other countries, some TIs may want to start saving up money. Rex 84 was linked to other programs like Operation Garden Plot and Cable Splicer, which involved military control over civilian populations during unrest. So we could essentially lose our constitutional rights. And according to that bill, Rex 84, it mandated arresting those which were dissidents. And since we're exposing a truth, they may try to say that we're a dissident when we're not. Gang stalking typically revolves around psychological manipulation. And in some communities, fusion centers are utilized, defense contractors, regional councils. And I remember when I lived in Texas, I dealt with the Texas Association of Regional Councils. They had an office in downtown Austin, Texas. And one of the groups they had listed as a partner was actually designated as a hate group. But they had allowed one black person to join, so that hate designation was removed. So there's all types of people in these regional councils at times which are not even properly screened. And they're networking with people and able to earn money on the side by working with different agencies. I remember when I dealt with TARC, it's T-A-R-C, they had conferences quite frequently with local business owners, companies, academic institutions, government agencies, politicians. So they operate like quasi-governments. And they are politicians which know that there are Americans which are being targeted and being denied due process. I have proof that in Texas, that the Texas Municipal League had a bunch of veterans from the American Legion driving around, targeting people. I actually witnessed an area get depleted of men. There were cops which were setting up people. They were trying to call it community revitalization. It may have its benefits in some cases where there's drug dealing going on, but the people that I had seen that were being mistreated were tied to a church that I would go to. Unfortunately, it was in a bad area, but I would go there, even though I lived in a good area. So I preferred to be around minorities. So I've seen a lot of corruption with the Fusion Center, with the CIA, the Northern Command, the corporate sector, politicians, the state governor's office. I think his name was like Paxton. I forgot his last name. He was the state attorney in Texas when I was there back in 2015. I think he was being investigated for fraud. But you know how it goes when you're high up there. in government, you just typically get a slap on the wrist and there's no charges. But if it's us, you're going to do like 25 to life. You was accused of committing fraud. So I've seen all types of serious abuses, fellow TIs, where there was no punishment. Now, there's different types of pride. There's some people that have this very narcissistic attitude where they feel like they're better than everybody else. Then you have some people which they take pride in their work, they take pride in their country, their constitution, but they're not like stuck up. They look down at people. There's nothing wrong with having that type of pride. When you're a narcissist, though, you may notice that these types of people, fellow TIs, typically at one point in their life, they experience the same things the target experienced. I've seen this happen, fellow TIs, especially with older veterans, where they find themselves in a situation where they're in a retirement home, they get dementia, or they suddenly die, or they're hospitalized. It's karma, fellow TIs, and I don't wish my enemies harm. But I'm not sitting here praying that God forgives every last one of them, because some of the people I tracked, fellow TIs, were messing with kids, and I couldn't go to police because police told me that if I ever shared the footage that I had, they would lock me up. They would try to entrap me because they knew that I was investigating. I wasn't out there threatening nobody. If people harassed me from a base, I would bring my binoculars, a bag, some bottled water, and I would try to position myself where I can get tags to prove my case. Because do you think the CIA or DOD or FEMA would help me, or the FBI? They'd be concealing all this crap. Do you actually believe that DOJ would say, yeah, we found out that Citizens Corps was harassing you? Of course not. Now, I have witnesses. Neighbors told me the block watch captain was doing this. And one day I go to Walgreens on West Breaker Avenue. And this lady pulls up in a vehicle and it has these stickers on the car saying block watch. She parks right next to me. She arrives as I do, and she doesn't turn her head to the left or to the right. So one day I hired a private investigator. I gave him the tag, information. He found out she works for the Texas Association of Regional Councils. They're all over Texas and different states. So he took pictures, and she was there at that office. These people worked with the CIA, with D. Malloy, Freemasons, like select people, military families. They would come as a group, fellow TIs, sometimes with no tag, filling up a parking lot just to harass me and walk up to me and whistle. They would outsource this crap. And guess who helps manage these programs? DOJ. In some places, it's your assistant state governor. It's managed by HHS. Hopefully things are going to change now that Trump is in office. So when you look at what's going on in Israel and you see the suffering, and you see that for years people have been asking, hey, help these people, and nobody does anything. It makes you wonder what the heck is going on. The same thing they're experiencing, we're experiencing somewhat, but not to the same degree. So, terrorism, fellow TIs, is not a societal problem. It's a governmental problem. Nobody goes out just shooting people. The root cause of terrorism, fellow TIs, is pride. When people feel disrespected, or a nation, you see them eventually try to counter the threat. That's why it's so important, fellow TIs, that we pray for this country. And for some of us, our targeting may be useful overseas because it may help protect you. When you go overseas, share your IMEI number with that police force. Share it with different government agencies. Talk to a counselor like in Nicaragua, not here, because they've been impacted by the CIA. So anyways, God bless. Say no to violence. Say no to terrorism. Peace.